the faith builds. It's a skill. It's a skill, and it's the art of life. And the more you practice it, like you say, every day, it builds up, and you develop that ability to live in trust, to live in faith, to create. And that's how you create.
Hey friends, my name is Gabby Rosalie, and this is the Crucial Conversations podcast, a platform dedicated to self-fulfillment and breaking the cycle of wasted potential. Using the tools of perspective, knowledge, wisdom, and awareness, I, with the help of qualified expert guests, share free insight and proven strategies that lead to all forms of success. If you are ready to start investing in yourself and living the life of your dreams, because I promise it is possible for all of us, you came to the right place. Together, we will help each other level up and have the crucial conversations necessary to do so. Welcome to the Crucial Conversations podcast, everyone. I am so happy that you are here, and I'm so excited because you are going to learn so much in today's episode, and I have a feeling our guest story today is going to blow you away. Now, I know personally in my family and many friends who have struggled with similar things, having someone with chronic illness in the family. Now, how many of you have ever experienced burnout or felt stuck in the negative thought loops of your brain with no way to get out, whether it's has to do with health or with business or with relationships? I know that mental burnout is something that a lot of us are accustomed to, especially at this new age of navigating career and relationships and purpose and passion. So today, Shimrit Nativ is a success and freedom mentor, CEO and founder of Master Your Path Academy and NeuroChange Solutions consultant in training with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And she is here to talk to us about healing her precancerous lesions using spiritual and inner child work, highlighting the mind-body connection. She also overcame her own burnout and realigned her business through spiritual practices, leading to rapid success and building a six-figure business. And she prides herself, and I am so blown away by how she blends spirituality and science to offer holistic approaches to deep, deep transformation. Now, outside of all of her achievements and accolades, she was a musician for 20 years and she lived off the grid for 4 years. So in other words, she's my favorite kind of human. She's got the brains and she's got the spontaneity. She's super cool. She's wise, she's passionate, she's adventurous, and she's wildly successful. So today, you're going to walk away with knowledge of real-time miracles to add to your magic bank, tools to overcome burnout and align yourself with abundant growth towards your goals, and tools to deepen your relationship with the divine. Shimrit, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this awesome introductory. And I'm so happy to be here with you today, Gabby. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we hopped on the episode recording, Shimrit was telling me she is recording from Germany. So as you can tell, having guests on the show from all across the world is something that is really, really intriguing to me because you hear so many different walks of life, walks of business, walks of spirituality. And so I am very, very eager to jump into today's conversation and hear from your experiences and your journey. And before we dive into things, I would really love to just share how you're feeling going into 2025. What is on your heart as we close the chapter of 2024 and we jump into the new energy of 2025?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I can feel, the energy is very intense, as we can also see in all kinds of things that are happening around the world. And I think it's escalating, and I mean it in the positive sense because, I do think that momentum is picking up and frequencies are picking up, and that may mean more challenges for sure and, more frequent and momentous adaptation that is required, but at the same time also potentiality that is becoming stronger. And I'm really, really excited for this year. I feel that I myself and what I'm observing and the people that are close to me, we're really stepping into this year with a lot of momentum and with, things already happening. I think there is a really big opportunity for manifestation and for expansion and for elevation. And we're already seeing that. So I'm super excited.
Yes. I'm definitely feeling the shift myself in my personal life, and I'm observing it in so many other people's lives and collectively as well with the state of the world. Like you said, there's a lot of heavy stuff going on right now, but I know that on the other side of that is the potentiality that you mentioned. So it is very, very exciting. And I know that, coming into this year after the last few years, it's probably really heavy on a lot of people's hearts. So I'm really excited to touch on your own journey of healing and burnout and realigning your business, because even if you're not a business owner, even if you don't have a chronic illness, this idea of aligning your inner self and kind of elevating your inner standing is going to help pour out into all of the different areas of your life, whether you're a business owner or not. We all want to live a purposeful and passionate, aligned life. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So, spirituality it's the foundation for both your health and your wealth. And I want to talk about when you found out that you had precancerous lesions and leaned into spirit to facilitate your healing, because this might be an absolutely brand new concept for a lot of people thinking, we've heard about the book, Your Mind Can Heal Your Body. We've talked about The Body Keeps Score and some of these really, really famous books. But I want to hear from you how you leaned on spirit when you had chronic health issues.
Yeah. Well, when I found this out, this was quite a while ago, over a decade ago now. Yeah. Like 15 years ago, actually. Wow. And it was very clear to me that this was a call. This was a knock on the door, for me to really listen. So I always say, our patterns, they show up in cycles in our life, right? So in this story of mine, the pattern showed up way before it showed up in my body. It showed up in my relationships. And looking back, connecting the dots, I know it's the same pattern, and I know it was the same knock on the door, until only I didn't open it until it knocked on the door of, in this way of a physical condition that really woke me up. But actually it was the same pattern that showed up in this relationship, and then a few years after in this relationship, and then a few years after in this relationship. And I'm sure many people can relate to that.
Yeah. What was that pattern that you kept noticing?
Well, it was a pattern of really, choosing in relationships. It showed up as me choosing partners that were not right for me. They were great people. But I needed to compromise in one way or another my needs, my standards, in order for the relationship to be possible and to continue. Feeling like I will be the one, being like on a mission. I will be the one to heal him. I will be the one to show him the light. I will be the one that will touch his inner child, and you know what I mean?
Yes, I feel like so many women can relate to this.
Yes, exactly. And this, we're talking about like not a few dates, but like 3 years here, 5 years here, 2 years here, moving in together, So it's a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of life. And at some point I was already very, very aware of this, right? I was like, it was very clear, but here's the thing, that awareness alone and knowledge alone is not enough for transformation, because information doesn't create transformation. It's the integration of the information, the embodiment of it. And so even though I was aware of it, I was literally just witnessing myself going into yet another relationship like that. And I'm like, what are you doing? But here I was doing it. And I'm sure people can relate to that too, whether it's in relationships or other things, right? Like you're aware of there's a pattern here and I need to break through this. I need to shift this, but you don't. And so I say that every time a pattern shows up in a new cycle, it's like it's all stemming from the same root cause, the same root, and there's a lesson there to learn. And every time it shows up, there's an opportunity to learn, and it knocks on the door in the form of, here's another few years that did not end up with a lasting relationship that you wanted. Here's another heartbreak, or here's another, I don't know, loss in your business, or here's another, whatever it may be, the cycle, the pattern. Every time it's a knock on that door or on that gate, that is an opportunity to open that gate and step into more, expansion and transformation. And so for me, that was the loud enough knock to pause and say, okay, I'm going to listen now. I'm going to really go. And, your question was what was it like to lean into spirit? This was in the heart of it. So when the doctors told me, I was just intuitively feeling that something was wrong, and I went to check, and it was already an advanced state of that condition. And so the doctor said, okay, let's quickly go into procedure, no time to waste. And I said, no, if I do that and I just focus on fixing this on my physical body level, I will miss the chance again to learn the lesson and open the gate. And
so you had the awareness of this pattern recurring so deeply that you knew immediately that this was a physical manifestation, like, because you were so tapped into the cycles and the patterns of your life. Because, I'm sure that there are a lot of people that may be unconscious of patterns that they're repeating in their relationships, in their business, and other areas of their life. I'm sure there are patterns that I'm unconscious of in my life. And so I think it's so profound that when you saw this physically manifest, that you were like, nope, zoned in. I know exactly what pattern this is, or that you really connected to your heart and your intuition that was telling you, I've observed this from a state of awareness for so long, but haven't acted on it. So it was kind of like the knock at the door that was the loudest one for you to be like, okay, action is now the only solution. So yeah, I think that's really profound. And before you continue, I just urge everyone listening to this episode to take a little inventory of your relationships, your work, your career, your business, your health, just overall life, and really consider if there are any patterns that you may be repeating. Because as I'm hearing you say this, I'm thinking about this in my life, and I'm like, okay, I feel like right now is a test for me. And this is just like coming through as you're talking, of like my stability and my career and my finances after a couple of years having been in a similar situation almost 3 years ago now. It's almost coming back to me, and I feel like I'm seeking that security outside of myself. And so it's just, this is all kind of clicking right now. So really profound. I urge you guys, take inventory of your life right now if there's any pattern that you're repeating. Shimrit, continue.
Yes. So thank you for saying that. That's such a good advice. And that's the thing, that whatever is in a pattern is actually reflecting an internal pattern. And those internal patterns are deeply embedded in our subconscious and manifested in our physical reality, because not only in our subconscious, but in the field. So I'm taking a step out of my story for a moment, with your permission, just to give like a little input here, for the sake of understanding. We know scientifically that everything is first created in the field being the electromagnetic field, the quantum field, the unified field. Everything is first created on an energetic level and then projected and condensed into slower frequencies that then materialize into matter that we can then feel, see, hear, taste, touch. And everything is first created in the field. There's a research that was done with a group of women. They took two groups of women, one with a certain type of cancer and one without it. And they scanned the electromagnetic field around the body of each woman. And all the women in the group with the same type of cancer had the same pattern in their electromagnetic field. All right. And in the other group without the cancer, some women had that pattern in their field and some didn't. And they continue observing the groups over years. And then in the group, the control group without the cancer, the women that had the same pattern in their field, like the women with the cancer had, developed the same type of cancer. So this means that the cancer, what we call cancer in the body, was already existing as an energetic pattern, an energetic pattern, an energetic blueprint in their field. And what creates those blueprints and patterns in the field are patterns of thoughts, our patterns of feelings, our subconscious programming. So now we're going way off your question, but very deep into our conversation.
Okay, it's necessary. I think it's necessary because there does need to be this foundational understanding, because somebody who hears the mind can heal the body is like, what the hell are you talking about? If you don't have the understanding of what the quantum field is and how energetics are so critical to everything that we experience in life. They're the foundation, absolute foundation. And so, yes, I really appreciate that breakdown. I think it was really necessary.
So we can take it even a step forward for the understanding, and then go back to the story and, demonstrate it through the story that I'm telling here. So there's the field, and then there is us, human beings. And I call it, like I always say, we are spiritual beings. Now, if anyone is listening to this and like, I don't know what that means, I don't know what, then that's fine. Then let's say what we just said, everything is first energy, and that is a scientific truth. So even if you're not a spiritual person, and you don't jive with saying that you're a spiritual being or whatever, then scientifically, we already very clearly know for some decades now that everything is made of energy. And to really simplify this concept, just think of an atom. Everything is made out of atoms. Every single thing is made out of atoms. An atom is 99.9999999% energy. So it's just like everything is made out of a unified, non-physical field. We just know that energy, everything is made out of a unified, non-physical energy, which is the field. So the field is not somewhere out there, out of space. It's in every cell of everything. Yes, is the field. And then, so us as humans, we are energy or spiritual beings. Choose your, pick whatever works best for you. And then we have the human instrument. So us as human beings, we are basically instruments that can translate and transmute energy into physical forms. Unlike other expressions of energy, like animals or plants, other beings, we can form thought forms. We can create ideas and bring them into physical manifestation because we have the instrument to do that. And this instrument is operating on a subconscious program that we mentioned before. So that subconscious program, we can compare it to an autopilot system. So let's say the instrument, let's take the analogy of a plane. So we as instruments can create anything. Just like a plane can fly anywhere. And there is infinite supply of fuel. That's the energy. That there's no lack of energy because it's one energy. There's no separation on that level. So it's never destroyed and never created. That's, great scientists have said that many years ago. And so we have this plane that can go anywhere, and we have infinite supply of fuel, but there's an autopilot system that is set to go to one destination, to go on one course. And everything else is automatic. If there's any deviation from that course, wind, whatever, then the autopilot system kicks in to bring the plane back to its course, right? That's an autopilot system, quite simply. So our subconscious programming operates in a very similar way. It's a cybernetic system, like an autopilot system. It's set somewhere on a certain course, on a certain level, and it's been done, like the programming process has been done for the most part in the first years of our life for certain reasons that we can go into, that process too, and if we want. And so everything else is then, as we said before, expressions of those patterns. That subconscious program is a multitude of patterns, belief system, patterns of thoughts, concepts, images that we've received in those early years of life that have been hardwired into our brain. And so everything then in our life, first, this program is what creates the patterns in our field that we've mentioned. And then everything is in our life, our reflections of those patterns, just like we saw with this experiment with these women. Yeah, that the pattern was already there before it materialized in their body. So this is like a foundation in a nutshell of understanding the creative process, right? And our instrument to create as human beings. And then if we go back to my story, then Yeah, or even before my story, if we go back to your brilliant advice, Gabby, that, if anyone, everyone listening, take a pause and take an inventory of patterns in your life. Because if you have patterns manifesting in your life that you're not happy with, if there are patterns that you're happy with, amazing, that's great, right? Some of the programming is great for us, right? It allows us to have certain skills, certain, qualities and attributes that are great. But if you recognize patterns in your life in any aspect, like you said, that you're not happy with, then it's really worth noticing, because those will continue showing up. And in fact, they might most probably escalate over time in one way or another. Because it's like when water runs through a crease in the ground, it deepens, right? It deepens, it deepens, it deepens. So it's the same thing. And I like talking about it in another way too. I've mentioned the words lessons and gate for a reason. So my native language is Hebrew. I come from Israel originally. I live in Germany, but I come from Israel originally. And Hebrew is a really ancient language. And I love working with that language. It reveals so much truth. So in Hebrew, different words come from the same root, 2 or 3 letter root. And sometimes these words are not connected in their meaning, like seemingly, like it's not obvious. Their connection in meaning wise is not obvious. Yeah. But they still come from the same root. And one example of that is the words lesson and gate. So they both come from the same 3 letter root. And then the inversion of that root, cool, right? And the inversion of that root is richness, or richness. So when you learn the lesson, the knock on the door, the pattern is showing up, like, okay, I'm going to listen. I'm going to learn what is here the lesson. What do I need to shift? When did this start? What am I? Yeah. And then you can open the gate and step into another level of richness of whatever kind, richness in relationship and health and money and whatever is the expansion that you step into, that you allow.
And I'm so glad again that you broke this down, because now we have this understanding, and we're about to hear about the next steps that you took when you heard this loud banging on the door and you leaned into that. Because awareness is only one component, but like that's a huge component. It's the most important component, because you cannot shift what you're not aware needs shifting. Right. And so I'm really excited now to hear about how you leaned into this and you did the inner work. What does that look like? Because I know that there are a lot of people who are hearing this for the first time and are like, wow, this is really profound. Like, let me just sit with this understanding. But I also know that there are a lot of people out there who have this intellectual understanding of what the field is and how we are conscious creators and how we are spiritual beings having a human experience. But how do you actually go about making the change? So I'm super excited to hear about that.
Yes. So then, and you're right. Like, that's what we said before. Information is important. Awareness is important, but it's not complete, because that's not what creates the changes. So I got this knock on the door and I said, I'm not going to do this procedure so fast. I found another doctor that was a bit more understanding of my approach. And I went into a really deep process. It was a combination of processes, of tools. I did a lot of work with my dreams. Through my dreams, I've received a lot of guidance from spirit, from my soul, call it whatever you will. I did a lot of inner child work at the time, which is not, going and retelling the story and just, revisiting everything that happened, but rather really connecting to those parts of myself, mostly in a meditative state, through very specific processes that allowed me to really bring healing to these can
you hear me, Shimrit?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So going back to, I'm just going to pick it up from where I left off.
You got it. Inner child meditations is where you left off.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So then, really in a meditative state through a very, with very specific processes, really, connecting to those parts of myself and my psychic and my body where these things are stored. The subconscious program is stored, and bring healing there and rewiring.
Now with this inner child work, where did you start your search for this?
Well, there was one book that really had a really big impact on me, and then I'm a really, really big believer in mentorship. Always have been. So books and such are starting points, but then then it was to search for the best that I could find that would actually work with me with these tools and with this knowledge. But one book that really influenced me was The Journey, by Brandon Bass. It's an amazing story of her own healing and a really incredible process that she developed. And then I worked with someone that, worked very closely with her and was trained by her. And, he worked with me. Then I did a lot of work with dreams, as I had mentioned. During that time, I did that mostly. Yeah, then I didn't yet work with my mentor around dream work, but I did that mostly just with myself and with, things that I've learned through books. But definitely later on, that is something that because of the impact that dreams had, like a profound impact and a big, 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 big role in my healing process, like really the biggest probably, or one of them. I really invested myself in learning how to work with dreams. And I found an amazing dream master called Robert Moss, who wrote many, many books. And I worked with him closely to, include that in my skill set, let's say, and develop my ability to work through that medium.
Okay, very cool.
And then mentorship, I had an amazing teacher that I worked with at the time just to guide me into creating new patterns, basically.
And I mean, the reason that I ask this and the reason I know that it's like, okay, we still got to get to the original question and we're going to get there, I promise. But the reason I ask this is because I want this message to resonate. Like I want deep understanding because I know that this episode, I just feel it so heavy on my heart, is going to reach so many people, but people that are out there that are feeling at a loss for what to do, like how to take action. I'm just feeling that really heavy right now. And so, for example, this mentorship, I totally agree that mentorship is so important, but I know that a resistance that I've felt in my life is like, where do I start in looking for a mentor? How do I know that I'm going to trust this person? Because there's so much now out online. And it's like, how do I know what is truly aligned with myself? Of course, that is important to go inward and ask yourself those questions. But I really want to break this down and just hear from your story because you're living it. So when you talk about mentorship, where did you find your mentor? What advice would you give to someone seeking out that mentorship?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, as I shared in that point in my life, and in other points as well later on my journey, you stumble upon a book or upon a podcast episode or a webinar or a YouTube or whatever, and you feel that first resonance, right? And then, I mean, as I said, I would go straight. Like if this person is speaking to me, I don't care how big they are, whatever, how best-selling is their book. I'm going to try to get as close as I can to the original. That's just me. And then it's just really about taking leaps of faith. Because as you said, it's how do I know who to trust? And here is the tricky part. Because when we are presented with the opportunity to put our trust in someone and to make that commitment with our vulnerability, with our time, with our money, then all this logical, rational thinking comes up to hold us back from taking a leap of faith. and also the overwhelm of all the options and all of that, as you said. And so I always tell myself whenever I feel that was the time to choose a mentor that will help me break through this or get to the next level that I want to get. And it's always a leap of faith. And I always guide myself and others to take that decision from where you're going, because you are wherever you are right now in your life. I don't know if this will be a video, but I'm doing something with my hands to show a certain level. Okay, so you're somewhere here on this line. Just if you imagine like just lines, like in a notebook, these lines would represent frequencies, levels of vibration. And what you want, your healing, your success, your relationship, whatever it is that you want is somewhere on a higher frequency, right? And how do you know that? Because when you can imagine that when you have it and when you get there, you'll feel good, you'll feel grateful, proud, successful, relieved. Like these are high frequency emotions, because that's what emotions are. They are frequencies. We know what is our frequency by how we feel. But this opens up another piece of the conversation. So let's stick to this one. So whatever you want is on a higher frequency, and you're probably somewhere on a lower frequency. Otherwise, you'd have it, right? And so when you seek mentorship, to your question, you want to take that decision from tuning into that version of yourself who has already gotten to that higher frequency. Because what happens is that we find an opportunity, we find a mentor, we find a container, and then we need to make the decision. And then we go back and we look around all the other options that get us overwhelmed, as you said, or how much money do we have, or how busy we are, or what other people would think about us, or whatever it may be. We give our attention back to this frequency, the lower one, where we're at, that is then reflected in all these external things that we're observing. And so we lower our frequencies back down, and we cannot leap from here. So our decision, which is the driving force, which is what changes the field once we act on it, must be taken from this higher frequency. I hope that answers your question, but that is how that's how I chose all my mentors along the way. And I've really worked with some incredible people, and it was always a leap of faith.
Absolutely. And so just to summarize that into really like 2 to 3 sentences, take note of the things that stumble upon your path. What, like you said, a book, a podcast episode, a conversation with a friend, a name continues to come up. I've had this happen so many times in my life. Keep your eyes peeled and then tap into how are you feeling in your body? Does this rise excitement in your emotional body? Is it, like you said, in resonance with you? I feel personally really leaning into that exciting feeling, that curiosity, that intriguing type. What is this about? Like, I'd like to know more, or this continues to come up. You have to keep your eyes peeled. So notice those things that come across your path, and then think about the decision that you're making from an elevated, I guess, version of self. So then you want to feel this way. You're taking the decision from this point of, I already feel good. I'm already grateful. I am abundant. I am wealthy. And of course you have to kind of rationalize, like, if it's $100,000 investment, you don't have that right now. What is your next best option? You can apply logic and rationale and reason, but taking this decision from this higher level of frequency, and then knowing you're going to have to take a leap of faith, whether you want to or not, it's important. So notice the signs, make the decision from a higher version of yourself by tapping into those feelings and those emotions, and trust the leap of faith, because at the end of the day, it will all work out in your favor, as it always has. So now we can continue into this decision that you made to take an inner approach to your health.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a leap of faith, right, as well. Not only in the choice of mentorship at the time, the big leap of faith was just not to follow with the doctor's recommendation, right? And really do this, really lean into spirit, as you said. And so that's what I did. And within 3 months, I went back to the checkup. So the doctor gave me 3 months. The new doctor said, you know what? Okay, let's take 3 months. So I took these 3 months. And when I went back, it was like, I don't know how you did that. You know, you read those stories or hear those stories. So this was the story. I don't know how you did that, but it's retrieving, like it's getting better. And during that time, I also attracted a new person to my life, and who is my husband today for many years. And he was a complete outside of the pattern type of person. And it's beautiful, right? And I still needed the mentorship. So these dots beautifully connect together in our conversation today, because even though I attracted him, I still needed the guidance and the accountability to choose him. Because I remember coming back from the first date, I was, I had a neighbor who was a really good friend of mine. I was still living in Jerusalem. And she was like, well, how was it? It's like, wow, he's so sweet. Nah, he's not my type. Like literally, he's not my type. But with the help of my mentor and my guide, I really realized what was really going on and who was really saying those words and, resisting this and I made this new choice, and I got pregnant very shortly after that. And, so that's how we changed. Like, this is a really good example of, okay, breaking through the pattern, listening, learning the lesson, opening the gate, and really making new choices. And there's going to be resistance along the way, even when you do the work, because the programming, that subconscious program, is so powerful. It has 98% control of all of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. It feels like who we are. So even with all that work and the lesson and the gate and all of those things, still, he's not my type, right? Because it's so powerful. So,
Yes, it's such an amazing story. And also, that phrase, when it rains, it pours. It's also like the same on the other side of it. You're breaking through these barriers, you're rewiring your subconscious pathways. And not only are you healing your precancerous lesions, you're also attracting your now husband into your life. And so this is fundamental to elevating into that higher version of yourself in all areas of your life. And I think that, if you truly put out the question, the desire into the universe, and then at the same time, thank God for sending the answer, sending the health, sending the wealth, sending the partner your way simultaneously, that is then when you attune your awareness to the things that are coming your way. And so what I feel like I've really learned in the last year of my life, and it's a short period. I mean, I'm 24 years old. I have so much more to learn. But what I have realized is that instead of posing all of your struggles and your concerns and just stopping there and closing the door to the conversation, you can dump on God. You can, let it all out, and you can cry and you can purge, and it's really important. But then there is such a beautiful opportunity to thank God, thank the universe, thank Source for the response to your struggles, to the response to your suffering at the moment, and saying, thank you for sending me the answer. Thank you for sending me the sign that leads me to my mentor. Thank you for sending me the career opportunity or the partner, and really just continuing to speak that out into existence, because the universal laws that govern our life here on Earth and all of the other planets and stars and life forms out there, they're perfect. We cannot change them if we tried. And so you just have to continue, even if you don't feel it in your body where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to meet this partner tomorrow. Yeah, right. But you continue to put these things out because the universe is perfect. It's just how it works. You can't change it. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. It's how it works. So yeah, really
absolutely
important.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I know that we didn't touch on it very much, but I just want to give you a really brief opportunity to, business now. We've talked about the spiritual component and about the manifestation and about the healing and about the going inward, but then how, when you know that you are not on the right path, in business specifically, maybe you've got the money, maybe you've got the success, but it's not feeling aligned with you. How did you pivot? How did you pivot?
Yeah, I had a couple of pivots, several. I've done several pivots in my life, before business and also in business. So, you mentioned before I had a few years when I lived off grid. So this is in my 20s when I was your age, 20 years ago. I lived off grid outside, like in nature with wood and no facilities. And, this was my life for 4 or 5 years. And then I pivoted. That's where I started playing music, which was something I really wanted to do as a teenager and young adult. And I never found my way to it. And then that's when I started playing flute, and I got so devoted to that. And I decided, okay, my life has to change. I'm not continuing on this path because I want to be a professional musician. And then I moved and I started, I went into university quite late at age 27 to become a professional musician. So that was a pivot. And then in that, I was a jazz musician, and it was very analytical, very mental, very demanding. I loved it. But then there was I came into another phase where this inner calling and this fire and this inner guidance started to get stronger and stronger again, telling me, okay, now you have to leave university in the middle because there is another voice and another music coming through. And so I did that. And that's when I started singing, and I started writing my own music and going into that. I completed my studies later, but as a composer and as a singer. And then I recorded my album, and I became, a performer, and I started touring around the world and da 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 da. But then I'm fast forwarding a few years every time, right? And then again, this fire started burning, and this time it was to change completely my trajectory. This is after now, fast forward almost 20 years, and with my musical career very, very established, and still I had to pivot, a very strong pivot, and start coaching. And then, going into business, being very successful, but then again, having to pivot and slow down because of the burnout. So to your question, how do you do that? The reason I kind of, recapped all of that is just to show that, first of all, that you can do that as many times as you are guided to pivot. That's message number one that I'm trying to convey here. And number two, that you have to listen to that voice, to that desire. So the desire is a really, really strong frequency that you want to be very aware of and let it lead you, because the desire is life-seeking expression through you. That is what a desire is. It is your soul, life, universe, call it whatever you want, or potentiality. Again, if you want to be more scientific, that potentiality, that frequency that is seeking expression through you, you feel it. You can have an idea, but you feel it. That's the frequency, as we said before, with this feeling of desire. And when it catches momentum, you have to follow it with action, and it will always be a leap of faith, because you're always leaving something familiar that has been and stepping into something unknown that you don't know, and that requires faith, right? And so that's how you do that. You recognize that feeling, and then you take a leap of faith, basically. Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much. It all makes so much sense, but it's funny how difficult it can be when you're living it, when you're in those moments of transition, of first identifying this desire and being like, wait, I just spent 5, 10, 15, 20 years working on X, Y, and Z. What is this feeling? Like, I need to suppress this because I'm supposed to be doing something other than what I'm doing right now. It's such an empowering message to hear from you how drastically you've pivoted, like going from living off the grid and then going to tour the world as a musician, and then starting a successful coaching business. Like, it is truly, it's inspiring, because there's not just going to be one pivot, and it doesn't have to look the same for everybody in their lives and in their stories, but it's possible, it's real, and it happens. It's just the nature of life, and it keeps it
Exactly.
fun. And you can carry the same core values, and you can carry the same mission that you have to positively impact the world, or to create, or to experience, in all of the different ways that you're pivoting. So it's really empowering to hear how many times you've done that, and how drastically I feel like you've pivoted.
Yeah.
And so I think that a really big facet to this conversation that we've had that I want to just close up with is that the word faith just keeps coming to mind. I mean, we have talked a lot about taking leaps of faith. We've talked a lot about trusting the signs that come into your path. We've talked a lot about thanking God for the answers that are coming your way, even when you're amidst struggle and suffering. So my challenge for everyone today is to do one thing every day that requires faith. And I'm carrying this over from one of my favorite leaders and pastors, Craig Groeschel. He's he's a true visionary. I really love his heart for people and for God. But he says, if we want to live a divine life, the best thing that we can do is to commit ourselves to one act of faith each day. And so I think that whether that is taking a leap of faith and finding a mentor, whether that is prayer, whether it's sharing your testimony or your gratitude, your love for God, just focusing on small, consistent acts of that alignment to yourself and following your heart and your desire, giving generously, inviting God to show you the way. All we have to do is ask. So taking one thing each day out of faith will help to build the faith that is going to help you to elevate to those higher lines on that, sheeted paper, and live in that frequency of abundance that is all of our birthrights. It is possible for all of us. So just want to call that out as a challenge to do something out of faith every single day, because as you continue to do that, the faith builds, and that is where transformation really does live.
I have to share with you something. I love everything that you're saying, and I think you're going to love what I have to share. So remember I said in Hebrew that words come from the same 3-letter root. So there is a word in Hebrew that I'm sure you know, because it's amen. In Hebrew, you say amen. It means the same thing. And it's actually also a 3-letter root to the following words: faith, belief, trust, and also art, mastery, and practice.
Wow.
And
I just got chills.
Yeah, I know. And me too. Every time I think about it, you get and it's exactly what you're saying, right? The faith builds. It's a skill. And it's the art of life. And the more you practice it, like you say, every day, it builds up, and you develop that ability to live in trust, to live in faith, to create. And that's how you create, because creation is done. Everything that you want exists outside of your known, in the unknown. And so you have to take a leap of faith. You're either going to have faith or you're going to have fear from the unknown. It's either this or that, because you don't know. So, and that's a skill that you develop through practice, through repetition, just like you say.
Yes, I love that. And the Hebrew root words are so, so fascinating to me. I think that language is one of the most beautiful things that we have here to express ourselves as human beings. And the historical ties of those ancient languages like Hebrew are truly like, they are just, I mean, there's some connection that all of us have to this ancestry of these languages that go back years and years, even if we aren't from the Hebrew lineage ourselves. Like, I just feel it in my heart, the beauty and the magic and, all the potency of it all. So yeah, I'm really glad that you shared those little nuggets of wisdom.
Yes.
And Shimrit, if there's anything else left on your heart that you want to leave listeners with, I just want to open the floor to you, and then also to allow them the opportunity to connect with you. If you mentioned you're working on a book, you've got a lot of things that are kind of going on behind the scenes. So if you want to plug any of that, how they can connect with you, and anything else that's on your heart.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, to connect with me, I think best would be to send me a message. You can find me on Instagram, Shimrit Nativ. It'll probably be here in the notes for the episode. So you can send me a message. I would love to share with you some free things that you can tap into and really you already integrate this information. There's a beautiful meditation that I can send you that will really help you connect to the field and move energy that is beyond the physical senses. You can send me the word energy and I'll know exactly what you're looking for, or just, text whatever you feel like, and I would love to connect. And if you want to go a little bit deeper, there is a 3 days training that will really take you through more of a process and also deeper into the concepts that we were talking about today. And we'll give you some tools to follow. So we can include the link to that in here, and people can just, tap into that and take it from there. And the words that I would love to leave us with and everybody listening is really from what we just said. I always say that well-being, freedom, prosperity, these are skills that you can practice and master. You have the most marvelous instrument, and it's just about a skill that you can practice and master.
Love that so much. Thank you for all of the wisdom that you shared today. I really, really enjoyed our conversation, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode. I will leave all of that information in the episode description, and you guys will be able to reach Shimrit. You'll be able to reach out to me if you have any questions, comments about the episode. Thank you guys so much. I love you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Hey y'all, before you head out, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode, and most importantly, thank you for making the conscious decision to invest in yourself and expand your mind. By doing so, you are helping to elevate us all to live better lives. By showing up and emulating the things that you learned in today's crucial conversation, you are inspiring those around you. If you want to continue this domino effect, share this episode with someone that you want to help to unlock their maximum potential. And connect with me on Instagram at @GabbyRosleyCo to share your valuable feedback and offer recommendations for what you'd like to hear in future episodes. I love you all. Keep shining your unique lights, and I will see you next time on the Crucial Conversations podcast.